many different ways that children end up as soldiers. Some of them are literally recruited by force and taken at gunpoint or kidnapped from their homes in the middle of the night.
I started working when I was 11 years old.
It feels like you don't got no choices. You don't feel the same as other kids.
Yeah, I think, I want to do art, fine art. If I, when I get yeah.
Yeah? You think you can be better at that than you can at singing?
No, I like what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Childhood was completely taken away from me.
For me to say a grown man and, my uncle was a child at heart, but he didn't have a normal childhood.
And so I know it felt like in that way, not being sick, but not having had a childhood. So my heart go out to those children. I feel their pain.
Soaring up so high, watch me now, watch me fly.
Did Michael Jackson have a childhood? With tonight's episode 3 of Michael Jackson, Nocturnal Admissions, we're going to be asking that question. And we're going to be looking at clips of Michael Jackson when he was a child. We're also going to be looking at clips of Michael Jackson when he was older and being asked about his childhood. And then we're also going to be looking at clips of children who were essentially either child laborers or in some cases child soldiers or have had tragic childhoods, and how it compares to what Michael Jackson said was a non-existent childhood. So I ask you to take some. We appreciate you watching Michael Jackson, Episode 3, Nocturnal Admissions.
In March, but I think we're going to work around to it again.
You got a concert tour that started last night, as a matter of fact. I'm going to talk to you about it in a little while. Dear Michael from Long Beach, Deanna Carroll, who's 16. What school do you go to? Do you go to a school?
Yeah, I go to private school in the Valley.
Do the kids stare at you because you're so rich and famous? Do they? Do they stare at you? Not because of it.
It's kind of a school like the kids are already in the business. Like
there are other singers, dancers, and aerialists, and jugglers, and tumblers, and so on. 16, that you have a pet snake. Do you have a snake?
Oh yeah, Rosie the Crusher. I have a snake, boa constrictor.
You're putting me on.
No.
Where does Rosie live with you?
In my room.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. How old is this snake?
It's 2 years. Had him for about 2 years.
Do they ever get too big so you got to turn them loose or anything?
Well, they're known for choking people, and they get about.
What are you, some kind of a nut?
So after watching those clips, I'm sure some people asking, well, what is the point of those clips? Michael Jackson's just discussing that he had a pet snake, and he discussed that he went to a private school. The idea is to show that Michael Jackson did have elements of a childhood. When you're a child, you go to school. When you're a child, you'll have pets, and you'll stay home and have families and have your own room where you kind of hang out in. Now, that does not mean that Michael Jackson had a perfect childhood by any means, but when we look at the history of Michael Jackson, when he grew up in Gary, Indiana, they lived in a 2-bedroom home, and it was a fairly big family. It was 9 children. So you had Michael Jackson's mom and his dad, and then you had 9 children to boot. So you had 5 brothers and 3 sisters. So obviously they were close-knit just because of the fact that they lived in such small living quarters. And when Michael Jackson moved to the Encino state with his family, it was a fairly big home with a good amount of acreage. And as you can see in these pictures, he had a motorbike, there was a pool, he had a lot of the elements of what someone would say is a fairly straightforward, normal childhood. Now, it's not to say that he had a perfect childhood or he wasn't abused, but there was definite elements to a childhood. We're going to take a look at a video right now where you might not see any of these aspects that I just spoke about when it comes to childhood. So let's take a look here and just kind of compare.
أبي مات بشارع 40 دحين أنا أشقى على أسرتي
مع باقي اللي أنا أصرف عليهم كل شيء. أنا اسمي أنس وصيب سيف، عمري 12 سنة. أنا أشتغل بورشة حديد من الساعة 7 للساعة 6. أحيانا أسرع، أحيانا أقص، أحيانا أرنق، أحيانا أنقش، أي حاجة أنا أعمل. لا الساعة لما تبدأ الساعة 6 أوقف. أنا وقفت الدراسة علشان ما فيش أحد يشقى على أسرتي. أدرس إخواني الباقي منهم 4 وأنا الخامس. أحلم إن أفتح ورشة أبي وأشقى على أسرتي وأندي لهم مصاري. وأدرس أخوتي الآخر الجامعات وأطبخ أي شيء.
Soccer,
baseball, well, and volleyball.
volleyball. What about swimming, man? I thought you were good swimmer.
That's my favorite thing. I love swimming.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I like
Like
swimming.
swimming?
Yeah.
How about you, man?
It's okay with me. Well, man, the way you ride your mini bike, I don't think you're gonna live too long to record another record.
How do you unwind? How do you unwind? What does the Jackson 5 do for entertainment? You entertain the people of America and the world 5, 6, 7 days a week. Now, what do you do when you want to unwind as far as diversions go?
Like what do you mean?
Do you enjoy sports or?
Oh yeah, I like to swim and I play a little tennis every now and then. Only when I go over to Diane's house. And what else? Swim, play pool. Indoor games.
What brought you to California? Just the business angle out
Well,
here?
when we were playing in Gary at home in our little home on Jackson Street, our father would always tell us we would move to California, and we would never believe him. We would say, "Oh," and it just happened to happen, and we from then on we believed him.
So as you heard in those clips, you could see that Michael Jackson, again, did have elements of a normal childhood. I also, again, want to stress it wasn't a perfect childhood, and it wasn't a childhood that did not have some trauma involved to it. But he shared a lot of good moments with his family, and he also had some good moments outside of his family. Now, what we're going to listen to next is a child that was taken from his home and put into a child, what they call the child army, to fight a war that he really at the time did not want to fight. So let's take a listen.
In the beginning, it seemed, it was a place to go for safety. They provided us food, shelter, so basic necessities, and we helped in the kitchen. But that relationship quickly changed to being forced in this war. There was a constant awareness of violence. You were either in the war front fighting, or they were killing somebody in front of you to further traumatize you. It's not just a child carrying the gun, that's a child soldier.
Child soldiers can include kids who are working as messengers, as guards, as spies. They could be cooks in a military camp, but too often child soldiers are actually combatants on the front lines of battle. It could include an 8-year-old recruited by paramilitaries in Colombia. It includes young boys in Burma recruited, into the National Army. It could be girls recruited by the Lord's Resistance Army in northern Uganda. For a lot of girls, the burden is an extra one. They're not only used as combatants and for all the support roles that boys normally fill, but oftentimes they're sexually exploited.
It's not accepted to recruit children at all. As a child, when you're caught up in this madness, it limits you from knowing yourself as a human being, and it causes you suffering, basically. It just brings suffering to everyone.
You told me not to say kicks, right?
Yeah.
What he does in his leisure time and pastime and hobbies and whatnot. What do you do, Mike?
Well, I read a lot, and
what kind of books do you read?
like science fiction or just some of the bestsellers, like A Night to Remember, The Sinking of the Titanic. And I feed my birds every morning.
You have a bird collection?
Yeah, all kind of different
Do you buy them
birds.
or do you catch them?
No, I buy them.
You buy them, huh?
Yeah.
What are some of the birds you have?
Oh, a peacock, pheasants, parrots, Nicobar pigeons.
Do they ever peck you?
No, not really. They know me.
Do you go to a regular school or private school?
No, we go to private school,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot different from public.
Yeah. I would imagine that there are a lot of show business kids that go to the school, right?
Yeah.
Who are some of the more famous kids that go to school with you? Or who have famous parents, maybe?
Well, Danny Bonaducci of the Partridge Family.
Early every morning, Parody pulls a cart through town hauling water for neighbors. When it's full, the tank weighs about 450 pounds. After doing morning chores, the hardest part of her day begins. Instead of going to school, she goes to work in a brick factory all day long. It's hard, tedious work, often in temperatures above 35 degrees. Each family gets paid by the number of bricks they load. Parody's mom is getting older and weaker, so she needs Parody and her sister to help. When Parody's father got very sick 5 years ago, he eventually passed away, and she was left with a mountain of debt and 4 girls to raise. So they came to the brick factory 3 years ago, and Parody went to work to help them survive. Parody dreams of becoming a teacher. But if she can't go to school, that's impossible.
Amazed me. I've watched you grow, everybody has. Do you remember any time in your whole life when you weren't performing?
Well, not really.
No.
We've always performed.
Yeah.
Even when we were small kids.
Yeah. But you don't miss then not ever having had what they call an average childhood? Like
No, not really.
No.
We get to do things kids do in the neighborhood and everything.
And being such a large family, you play off of each other.
So the next question that needs to be asked is when did Michael Jackson and his family begin to discuss the more traumatic and abusive parts of Michael Jackson's childhood? From what I can gather, it was really in 1992 during the Oprah Winfrey interview that this was really brought up in a major way. And it's rather curious because this was a little less than a year before the abuse allegations against Michael Jackson were made public. And even back then, though, people were questioning his behavior with children and questioning his eccentric behavior of wanting to be around anything and everything childlike. So let's take a listen to this clip and see what Michael Jackson has to say.
Could understand my father.
And so let's talk about these teen years. What is that when you started to go inside yourself? Because obviously you haven't spoken to the world for 14 years, I think, is your last televised interview. So you went inside, you became a recluse, and that was on purpose. Was it to protect yourself?
I felt that there wasn't anything important for me to say. Those were very sad, sad years for me. And
why so sad? Because on stage we see you performing, you're getting your Grammys. Why so sad?
Oh, there's a lot of sadness about my past life and, adolescence and my father and all of those things. It just made me very, very, very sad.
So he would tease you, make fun of you?
Yes.
Did he ever beat you?
Yes.
He did?
Yes.
And that was difficult to take, getting beaten and going on stage and performing?
Yes.
And why would he beat you?
Because he saw me, he wanted me to, I guess maybe, I don't know if I was his golden child or whatever it was. Some may call it a strict disciplinarian or whatever, but he was very strict, very hard, very stern. And just a look would scare you, and...
Were you scared of him?
Very frightened. There's been times when he'd come to see me and I would get sick.
Really?
I'd start to regurgitate.
As a child or as an adult?
Both. He's never heard me say this. I'm sorry, please don't be mad at me.
Well, I mean, I suppose that everybody has to take responsibility for what they've done in life. And your father is one of those people who also has to take responsibility.
But I do love him.
Yes, I understand.
And I am forgiving.
Yes.
I don't go around.
But can
with
you really forgive? I say this on my show all the time. Can you really forgive if you haven't gotten angry? How often do you actually come out here and do this?
Whenever I'm here, I come out and I go on the ride.
Well, is this a part of you, what we were talking about earlier, the pain of growing up and not being able to experience all the things that kids normally experience, and so now you are fulfilling all of those fantasies?
You compensate, yes.
Really?
Yes, it's very true.
Do you think you can ever really recapture it, though? Does it feel the same? I mean, I don't know.
It's more fun. I wouldn't
really?
change the past if I had to.
Would not?
I'm enjoying myself.
And here we are inside the theater. I had one too many sugar babies here the other day at the candy counter. But the candy's here for all the kids, and Pinocchio's here, and E.T.'s here. What's fascinating to me about you is that obviously you have this childlike aura about you. And I see children with you, and they play with you like you are one of them. But a child did not.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one of the first things that pops out definitely on your bio, just in you in general, is the Michael Jackson, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, you're the first one to kind of report on the cases against him, right? Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So can you kind of touch, like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah. I worked for a hard copy here in New York. I live in New York now and have for 20 years. And I had just recently moved out to the California headquarters of hard copy. And, you're making sources and you're meeting cops and you're doing the things you do in your beat. And all of a sudden I get a phone call. Hey, from my news director said to me, they're raiding Michael Jackson's apartment in Los Angeles and the ranch in Santa Barbara. Go figure out why. I mean, it was as easy as that.
Wow.
And her office, I went upstairs and spoke to her. I came downstairs and my producer was waving crazy at me from across the room. And he had a source on the phone that said, meet me at a restaurant in Santa Monica. I got something I want to give you, because he, quote, shouldn't get away with it again.
It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But if this is what I have to endure to prove my innocence, my complete innocence, so be it. Throughout my life, I have only tried to help thousands upon thousands of children to live happy lives. It brings tears to my eyes when I see any child who suffers. I am not guilty of these allegations, but if I am guilty of anything, it is of giving all that I have to give to help children all over the world. It is of loving children of all ages and races. It is of gaining sheer joy from seeing children with their innocent and smiling faces. It is of enjoying through them the childhood that I miss myself.
After many years of research, it has been my impression that Michael Jackson really played up the abusive parts of his childhood, really when people were questioning his interaction with children. And after the 1993 allegations had happened, it really ramped up. And I believe also his public relations team understood that in order for them to, in many ways, mitigate these allegations, it was important for him to be seen as the victim, that he was the victim of these children. And rather disingenuous when Michael Jackson discusses his lack of childhood according to his own words, especially because of the timing. As I showed you in the previous clips, Michael Jackson, when asked before really there were allegations levied or even suspicions levied against him, discussed that he did actually do normal things that children usually do, going to school and having pets and having friends and spending time with his brothers and sisters. When we compare that to some of the clips that we have seen in this video where there were children who really had no opportunities and very, very difficult lives, it's very hard to say and very hard to accept the concept or the assertions of Michael Jackson that he did not have any childhood and that was taken away from him completely. I'm going to be showing a clip now of a tragic story of a child that essentially was tormented by his stepmother to the point where he was forced to kill his own father. It's a very sad story, but one that really needs to be looked at in comparison to this.
Take a look.
I was 10 years old when I shot my father to death. My father remarried to Judith when I was 5 or 6 years old. I was abused and tortured nearly every day by Judith. Judith would spank me, beat me, throw me around. She also would make me eat feces. When there were bruises on me, she would make me lay in a bathtub with ice water for hours to bring down the swelling. When I would try to get out of it, she would usually hold my head under the water. My teachers would sometimes see bruises on my arms and around my neck, and Judith would make me wear long sleeves and turtlenecks in the middle of summer. That's why she began abusing my genitals. Judith would burn me with a lighter on my genital area. She would twist and pull. Judith had convinced my father that I was a problem child. She would wake me up in the middle of the night and say, "Go grab a cup of water and throw it on your dad." I couldn't tell her no, I would just be beaten more. I was completely brainwashed by Judith. I had to do everything she said, including killing my father.
Well, I know it is hard to wrap your mind around this, but Corey says killing his father wasn't an accident. In fact, it was a carefully thought-out plan.
Judith had planned my dad's death for a couple weeks. Judith told me my dad was dying of brain cancer. She just said it was his idea that I was supposed to shoot him and it would be ruled an accidental death. November 3rd, 2003. I got off the school bus, and as we were walking to the house, she put her hand around my neck and told me this was the day. The gun was in the laundry room, and I was to grab it and go where he was sleeping. There were some catalogs and stuff I was supposed to put over the floor and the bed to make it look like we were explaining and talking about hunting, and I was supposed to put it up to his head and pull the trigger. So I went into the bedroom and I did as I was told. My father was asleep. I laid out the magazines by myself and pulled the trigger. I shot him in the head. When I shot him, I remember hearing this one last breath that he took, and it's just long and drawn out, and I knew he was gone. As soon as it happened, I dropped the gun and I ran to the phone and called 911. Judith made sure that she was at her mother's house. I had Judith's story memorized, so I knew exactly what to say to her. I told the police that I was handing my dad the gun. He had grabbed it and kind of jerked it, and my finger was on the trigger and it went off. The police believed me. For the next 9 years, I had to keep that secret. If you were sorry, you'd have never signed me over.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry for what?
I'm sorry for signing him away. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry.
Why won't you look at him when you say that? You look everywhere in the room but at your son.
I'm sorry. I've tried to tell him this over and over again. I'm so sorry.
Do you think I'm sorry? My dad's not here because of me, because Judith tortured me and abused me for years because of you giving me up. How do you think I feel?
I'm sorry. Corey, I am really sorry.
Answer the question. How do you think he feels?
Hurt and angry.
You know, my kids, they'll never have a grandpa because of me. You know how I'm gonna have to explain that? And then, you know, while I'm explaining that, I'm gonna go ahead and include it's because you decided it would make your life easier if I wasn't around and you didn't have to fight for me.
Father and her were going to raise him and he was going to have a good childhood. I had no idea anything like this could happen.
I had no childhood. Just letting you know, that part of my life, as soon as you handed me over, that was gone.
So what are my thoughts on this episode of Nocturnal Admissions? Well, what I believe is Michael Jackson did indeed have a very difficult childhood. I believe that he had to deal with abuse from his father, and the fact that he was really made to go on stage at such a young age and work so many months out of the year that in many ways it was not the ideal childhood. But I do not believe he did not have a childhood. I believe that he did have a fairly, normal contemporary childhood. It just wasn't the childhood that he wanted. And I believe that he had support from his brothers and sisters, and that he did do a lot of things that normal children would do. My other belief is that I believe that this theory and assertion that Michael Jackson did not have a childhood really gained momentum when he was spending absorbent amount of time with children that were not his own. And then after the allegations, I believe it definitely even ramped up to a much higher degree. The estate and his family used that particular excuse to this day, that he spent time with children because he didn't have a childhood. He needed to be around them. He was inspired by them. And because he felt that he was reliving his childhood with these children and in many ways becoming a child, that he didn't have the best of judgment. I don't believe that. I believe that he was very much aware of his behavior and how it looked. I think Michael Jackson in many ways was hyper aware of his image and how people perceived him. I also believe that the stories of his eccentricity were somewhat hyped up by Michael Jackson's own public relations team and by Michael Jackson himself, so he could garner more publicity and even be looked at as somewhat mysterious.
So I want to thank you for watching our very, very, very small channel here and new channel, Surviving Michael Jackson. And as always, a little housekeeping. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Please, please turn on those notifications so when we have a new video that's dropping. And we also will be going back to doing some live streams. There's a lot of news that's coming forward. And this is going to be a really big year with all that's been going on with the Casio allegations, with the Michael Jackson biopic, with the possibility of a part 2, with the civil trial coming in November, with the Netflix series. This is a pretty big year, so we are going to be covering this. I do want to let you know of an Instagram account I think you might want to go to. If you go to the Instagram account MJ Victims on Instagram, that's an account you might want to check out. As well as Roxanne has one. Roxanne has one on there. And, there's not a whole lot of people doing this, supporting the victims of Michael Jackson. And just for the people that might be listening, that might be on the other side of the fence, I still have an open debate challenge out for anyone that wants to debate the information in regards to the allegations. And I would be obviously supporting the victims. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that has some extensive knowledge that might want to debate me on X Spaces. That's really the only place I'll debate, just because it's nothing but audio. And I think that's important when you're debating. So, again, I want to thank you for watching our very, 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 very small channel and new channel, Surviving Michael Jackson. And as always, you have a wonderful, wonderful evening.